Okay. Let's see. I am now streaming, I think. So this is great. I'm just going to post the stream link for people to join. Hello? Yep. Okay. Hello, hello. Hello, David. Yeah, I'm just this is the first time I'm running my own stream. The audio quality will probably be not ideal, but I just am going to share the stream link onto the Facebook group so that other people know that it's happening now. I'm very excited to show off gSender related things to you guys tonight. We'll give it maybe like another 5-minute buffer. So maybe 8:08, and that should give people enough time to come and join us. That's a good comment, David. I appreciate that feedback. Yeah, I think it would be certainly advantageous to be able to choose your starting point. Though obviously our priority was to try to get the surfacing program, like the baseline aspect of the surfacing program, working as best we can. If you're finding that the surfacing program is working exactly as you expect, the only caveat being that you can't choose the corner, then that would be really great news for me. And I'd feel very confident that that feature is now working as I expected it to. Okay. A few more minutes left. Anyone who's joined the stream, say hi just so I can know that you're here. Hello, hello. If you have any recommendations for, I hope you guys are all okay being over here on YouTube. I know not everyone has a YouTube account or anything like that. Welcome, Jeff. That's really exciting that you've ordered your machine. It's very you're very much hopping into it, aren't you? The fact that you're now tuning in to learn a bit about gSender. But I appreciate that you're putting that time in because although there are other programs you can use to control your long mill, the gSender is very much one that we've been putting a lot of effort into to make the process of using the long mill much more easy. And even if you aren't using the long mill, we're trying to redesign it in a way that not just has the features that people would benefit from, but also it's laid out in a way that's easier for a new CNC user. David, you said you haven't been able to try surfacing. Oh, I see. Okay. Well, if you could give it a try, if you could give surfacing a try, even if it's hard for you to reach, then the feedback would be very valuable for me to evaluate how it's working overall. All right, well, there aren't too many of us. We've got about 9 of us here right now, but I'll just begin on the stream because I don't want to use up you guys' time. I'm glad you like how I've set up the probe, David. That was something that I thought about for a while. I'm glad that it's helped save some of your bits. So I'll just say that the general layout of this live stream is going to be quite informal. I didn't want to kind of like bog down with going through an entire script with you guys on how gSender works and not kind of break away from that script because to be honest, I want to be able to, like the entire reason that I'm live streaming tonight is for you guys' benefit, right? I'm here at 8 p.m. late at the office, not a normal time that I would stream. But I wanted to make sure I was reaching as many people as I could at once. That way I could be answering you guys' questions about gSender. And so the rough layout of doing the live stream, and by the way, I know my microphone is probably not the most clear, but hopefully it's enough that you can hear me. But the rough layout is that I'm just going to take one section of time just to go from start to finish, showing you how I might load up a job in gSender, also showing off the myriad of features that we've introduced to the program recently. And basically, if at any point in time anyone wants to cut in with a question and ask how something is done, I'm glad to stop what I'm doing and answer the question. Or if I open something and I don't explain it properly, you guys can let me know. And yeah, that's about it. It's going to be kind of interesting because my headset is quite short and the machine is a little bit further away from me, but you can see that I can still reach the camera over there. You can see the remnants of some cutting that Andy had been doing out of aluminum earlier today for some prototyping for the future. So yeah, so I'll just begin very simply, and you guys stop me when you think I should stop. Let me just resize this appropriately. I want to make sure that not too small there. There we go. Okay, so yeah, I'll just start from the beginning. And if you guys are familiar with the assembly video series for the long mill, which I've heard feedback that many of you appreciated, I like to take my sweet time with things, and so I'm just gonna go nice and slow. You guys can always watch the live stream back later on faster speed if you would like to. So this is the most current version of gSender right now, 0.6.9. This is the full version of it you can see here. Let me just bring that to the middle. Actually, let's see if I can get this looking how it should look. I want to make sure that I can see you guys as well. Doing a little bit of adjustment here on the fly. Yeah, so let me first switch over here, just to remind you guys before I get into this. Where's my mouse going? Okay, give me a second. I'm sorry to delay the stream, but my mouse has disappeared. I don't know where I'm clicking. Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay, here we are. So just to remind you guys about gSender, where you can download it, stuff like that. gSender is available on our website. We have put a lot of time and money into it, and a lot of development time. It's been under constant development for over 6 months now, but we make it available for free. If you just go to cnc.com, which is our website, you can also go into the resources here, and you'll see gSender. And if you click on that, then this page will load up for you. And Actually, thank you, Stephen, for the tip off that my links were a bit out of date, but now the links are good to go. You can see why you might choose to use gSender. A lot of what we try to push through the development of the gSender is a clean design so that it's easy to use no matter your experience, that it's also bringing additional features to the plate. And we also are working to make it run more reliably and effectively on larger files and lower powered hardware, more so than other G-code senders work, while still giving you those features. Feel free to click the drop down because we kind of keep track of the full feature list there if you're interested. There's an FAQ here if you've got some questions about it, which I think answers a lot of people's questions. And if you have a question that's not in the FAQ, you can let me know in the comments. We're always open to receiving feedback about gSender to make it better, or if you find a bug. So you can click the feedback button and it'll take you to an entry form. As well as you can see here is the GitHub for gSender. For those of you who are a bit more technical, you can go here, and it also has similar information on why we're making gSender, what its features are. You can also see the development history of features that we've added here. And as well, in the documentation, I'll remind you guys that we have a resources site here. You can visit this resources site. If you click on Longmill resources, Millwin resources, or gSender docs, it'll take you over here. And we have this section on gSender where it'll show you how to do things like installation, setup. We've got a video here, how to use all of the different features. These are kind of like the basic features. This is the page on additional features. And so if you're ever feeling stuck, feel free to give that a read through. And we're always working on updating this. Obviously, recently we've put out a new version of gSender every 2 weeks, and every 2 weeks it brings more features. So keeping the documentation up to date is almost just as much of a battle as doing the code updates themselves. So there you have it. I've got gSender open here. And so I'm just going to start from the beginning. From the time that you open gSender, you will basically have your top bar here, which is kind of used for the tasks that you might not perform all the time. And then your left side of the window is dedicated towards loading, looking at, and running jobs. And the right side is dedicated towards all those other things that happen between jobs, essentially. So positioning your machine, seeing where it's positioned, and other things that are kind of manual control. So you'll see when I hover over here, my machine will automatically show up that I'm plugged into. I'm plugged into the long mill, and I'll click on that. And you might not have heard, but you can hear the little click out of the machine. And now here I'm connected. So when I'm connected here, you can see that I've got access to my manual control on the right side and my visualizer is here on the left. Normally you'd see a bit, but my location's kind of far away, so I'm just going to zero all. There you go, my bit's showing up. So some of you might not have known that this is a bit of a 3D view. You can always look at it using this little cube at the bottom here. But you can also scroll in and out and left click and hold to rotate and right click and hold to pan across. And so let's see if I've got any, well, there's a lot of parts that I can load up. Here's a mock part that I can load up here. That was just my recent files. Seems like you guys can't see the load prompt, but when you click load file, you get a little window that pops up, and that allows you to navigate through to the file that you want to run. So for instance, let's see if I can find my Starman here. I'm sure he's got to be somewhere on the computer here. Oh, I guess not. No Starman. Let's load up some text here. Okay. Okay, Steven, I will stop then and talk about the workspace dropdown. Oh, as I get to it. Okay, I'll continue going. Colby says, NEAT on the fix for jogging with the arrow keys for the y-axis. Z. Oh, right, Colby, I remember that reported issue. I thought that we had fixed that, but I guess I'll have to retest that because I can't remember exactly what your setup was with the shortcuts. So I'll have to open back up your message and check that out again. If you haven't tried it yet on the newer version, then please do. If you don't have 0.6.9, then please give it a shot. But I'll send you a message about it after your stream, and if it's still not working, then I'll follow up with you. Okay. So okay, I'll continue on. No other questions? I continue on. Yeah, so you can see the code visualization happening here. And you can kind of go and check it out if you'd like to. There's two things you can do if you would like to kind of inspect what's going on here. Well, obviously there's an X here if you want to unload the job, but it's not necessary to unload the job before you reload a new job. It's just kind of there to unload it if you've got a big file and you don't want to be kind of dragging things down. We've also got two other buttons, Outline, which some people have been talking about not working. To be honest with you, oh, what my that's interesting. I wonder if I just found a bug there. Well, if we find bugs tonight, then that'd be good too. I'm always looking to see if I can find new bugs. All right, let's try that again. Where was my... Actually, it should be in my recent files here. There it is. Okay. And by the way, guys, I'll let you in on a bit of a secret. gSender, the next version isn't going to be out for maybe 3 to 4 weeks because we're doing some more restructuring of the backend code because we think that we can make some of the processing happen even faster. And so I'll give you guys more updates in the weeks to come on that. In any case, I'm going to just move my machine to an appropriate spot here. Let me switch my view so that you guys can see. I'm going to be running the outline here. Just giving myself enough space to work with. And I'm just going to re-0 here and then run the outline. So you can see that it kind of moves up and it's going to be aiming to basically outline the entirety of the G code. And now this is pretty handy. This is one of the new features we've installed. This is pretty handy because it's going to show you what the extents of your cutting job is in real life. if you've kind of got your bit hovering over your material, you'll be able to see the view of where your cutting area is going to be. And that might be handy if you need to place something a bit more precisely, or you're trying to make sure that things like clamps might be avoided. Although, obviously, we're not outlining every single individual letter here. It's just kind of an overall outline. But there are some aspects where that could be very useful. Also, obviously, you guys know that we're working on our laser module, which is soon to be released. And so if you're loading up G-code jobs for the laser, then that's something else that would be useful to outline with your laser before running the cutting job or the engraving job. So yeah, one thing to note is that right now the outline is kind of being based off of the 0 point, and that was something that some users have reported how it's kind of crashed down unexpectedly for them. And so we're going to take another look at seeing if maybe we can substitute some absolute movements for some relative movements so that that stops happening. And that should eliminate that issue. But I would say for the time being, if you are going to be running the outlining, just make sure that you're in a spot where you can afford to have space for the z-axis to move up and for the z-axis to move down. You can see in the live view right now, I've got the z-axis almost fully maxed out so that I'm not accidentally running into anything. And then obviously you can see that it's lifting up. I think it lifts about 5 millimeters above to start off with. Then it comes, and you can see it's drawing, I'll go front view here. You can see it's drawing lifted above the cutting part here. And then you can see how it's lowering down at the end there. And that's something that we're going to make sure that we fix on the next release, that it doesn't move further down. Okay. David, you asked, will the laser module work with other lasers beside the CNC Light? Yeah. The laser, are you talking about the, when I'm talking about the laser compatibility inside gSender? Yes. And if you're talking if our laser will work on other CNC machines, yeah, it will probably work on lots of other CNC machines as well. The way that the lasers work is they usually are interfacing through the spindle control on the longboard, and it's a voltage signal that alternates between 0 and 5 volts to tell usually it would tell the spindle how fast it should be spinning, but in this case it's telling the laser how powerfully it should be emitting light. Okay, so let me open this up really quick because maybe you guys haven't seen this feature yet. But you can see there's this kind of overflow section in gSender that we like to use for kind of added features that some people may or may not use. And you don't really need to see all of them at once type of thing. If I go to the gear, which is the settings, you can see there's a toggle here for spindle/laser. And when I toggle that on, you'll see that there's a new tab now available down here. When I click to this tab, you can see that it's a control area for either a spindle or a laser. And that's because obviously, since the longboard is using the spindle output to control the laser, you can only control a spindle or a laser at the same at one at a time. As well, Gerbil actually has a laser mode, and normally what you'd have to do is you'd have to go into the firmware tool here, and you'd have to go down to laser mode, and you'd have to enable this so that your laser G-code is processed correctly. But basically what we've done is we've kind of brought some automation, and we've made it so that when you're toggling over to laser mode, these buttons are now sending the commands to turn things on and off so that you don't have to send the commands yourself in the console. And it also actually turns on, where's the laser mode again? This should be enabled. Yeah, it is enabled here. Okay. So it's turned on laser mode as well. Obviously, right now I don't have anything plugged into the spindle output. So if I do these things, it won't actually work. But you can see when I turn things on and off, it's sending the appropriate commands here in the console. For doing, this is per manual control. Obviously, you don't have to use these buttons if you're running the G-code. The G-code will turn things on and off for you if you wish. But the nice thing is, for spindle mode, obviously it's easy enough to send like an M3S 1750, for example, in the console, which is what you'll see is sent here when I click this button. But what isn't as easy is when you're in laser mode, there's kind of like a quirk to turning lasers on and off, where Gerbil doesn't want you to turn a laser on unless the one axis is moving. And so you'll see when I click laser on here, it's also sending a movement command to kind of allow Gerbil to turn on the laser even though the machine isn't moving. Oh, I just realized I should probably be I should probably be full screen here so you guys can see that a little bit better. Yeah. Also, this active signal also applies when you're actually running jobs, and so that can enable you to kind of like keep tabs on if your spindle or your laser is on or off while you're running a job. It doesn't just apply to doing manual control. That's something else that's beneficial. Okay. Oh yeah, while I'm at it, there's also coolant control here. This applies to the coolant pin on the long board. Does the same thing where it sends the command to turn on and off. Not sure why it's oh, there we go. Got a bit more of a delay to it, but the reason why the mist coolant button doesn't work is because Gerbil doesn't normally support mist coolant. But the flood coolant is the one that you want to click to turn on the coolant pin, and then you can turn it off. Okay, so hope that was all clear enough. I'm going to also show the test run. I'm just going to like zero out again. If you run the test run is going to go through and kind of show the movements of the pins. You can see the G-code running in the console here. And it looks like there's a bit of a bug here where the bit isn't moving. But that kind of just runs through the whole G-code. The main purpose of the test run file, the test run feature is to tell you if there are any like issues that it's running into. And if there are issues, they'll pop up at the bottom here. Obviously, when I've test run this file, it's come up with this info that there's an M0 command that's pausing my program. And that's why I have to then resume after I first run the file. And this prompt here, you can just exit it to make it go away. Does the exclamation mark show on the UI if the tab is changed? That's a good question. It doesn't right now show on the UI. It's only available inside of the tab. So that's a fair point, actually, Stephen, that perhaps we should consider seeing if we can have a notifier displayed elsewhere so that it doesn't disappear. But as of right now, it's specific to the tab to see when it's active or not active. The benefit of having the active indicator, it is beneficial to have it when you're running during a program, but the reason why it's specifically here as of right now is because this tabbed area is used specifically for manual control. And so our assumption was that if somebody is using the manual control of their spindle or laser, it's probably because they're troubleshooting and something has gone wrong and they're trying to see what it could be. And so we thought that it would make a lot of sense to, if you're clicking laser on, have that feedback that yes, based on the software side of things, the laser should now be active. Same for the spindle. It should now be telling you yes, that the spindle should now be active. And that way, if your spindle in real life doesn't turn on, but it says it's active here, then you know there has to be an issue with something happening in between, but it's not a software issue, essentially. I've had certain fonts double up with UGS. Well, if they were fonts that were stacked on top of each other and you couldn't see it normally, then you would be able to see that. Because if you're running the test run, you can see how the letters slowly run out here. And so if you're watching through the test run and you see the letters gray out, but then there are more letters that aren't grayed out underneath the current letters, then that would be a good indicator that there are two sets of letters on top of each other. Yeah, well, yeah, it is a bit of a safety issue. Like we do want to make sure people don't look into the light while they're using the laser, and your hands are clear when you're running the spindle. So it kind of has like a dual purpose, I suppose. I'm pretty sure the laser module also has an LED that turns on when the laser is active. So that's kind of your caution there. So yeah, but it's something I think is something that's valid to consider for the future. Okay, so I suppose I will. Okay, let's see what else I want to do here. I want to I'm not going to address every single button. I'm going to try to address things in kind of the order of someone who's not used gSender before. So I know I've kind of tangented a little bit, but we started off by connecting, we loaded a file, we kind of have navigated around that file, and you've seen what these buttons do here. Obviously, the start job button starts the job as you would expect. But let's pretend, for example, that we haven't set the 0 point for here yet. What would we do? Well, we've got our locations here, and it's at the 0 point. You can see we've got the jogging arrows here, as well as this little cancel. The cancel you only really need to use if you accidentally move too far a distance and you want to stop it without completing that movement. But you can see that these movement keys correspond to the distance that it's going to move when you click that key. This is for the XY, which is this one here, and this is for the Z, which is this one here. And this is the speed that they're going to move at. You can see when it comes to jogging, most times you won't want to move by, like, most times you want to move, well, sometimes you want to move very far distances quickly, and sometimes you want to move only short distances. The way these buttons are set up, you can either click the buttons here, or you can click the keyboard shortcut that you've assigned to the buttons. I'll quickly show you if you go to the gear and you go to the keyboard shortcuts menu on the left side here, that there are shortcuts for different categories, and you'll want to go to the jogging category to assign shortcuts for jogging. Right now you can see that I've got the arrow keys plus shift assigned to my jogging, so that I don't click them accidentally. So that's just a pro tip, I suppose. Make sure that you should try to make sure that most of these buttons that you assign as shortcuts are ones that are going to be hard to hit accidentally. But in any case, these three buttons that we have on the side here allow you to, they're what I call jogging presets. And what they do is you can see that they change these values down here to preset as either rapid, which moves further distances faster, normal, which is kind of an in-between, and precise, which moves as smaller distances slower. And this can be used either for the jogging. You can see that I'm moving a very short distance here. Looks like there's a visualization bug though. But you can see that I'm moving a very short distance on the actual video camera. If I switch over. By just clicking these. And I can also use my keyboard as well. Now, if I was using rapid, for example, where it moves, 20 millimeters, or let's say I increase this to 90, and then I move, and then I want to stop, I can hit this cancel here to stop that movement, in case I accidentally went too far. But in that case, we're still only talking about single clicks. The jogging in gSender is also set up for continuous jogging, where I can click and hold in any particular direction. I'll just go in normal. I can click and hold, and as soon as I let go, it'll stop moving. So I can click it, and it'll move. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I'll mark that down as a bug, I suppose. So I can click it, and it'll move the 5 millimeters, or I can click and hold it, and it'll continuously move until I unclick. And the same happens for the keys. I can click it, and it'll move that distance, or I can click and hold it, and then let go, and it'll keep moving until I let go. So basically, once you're in that continuous movement mode, these two values, the X, Y move and the Z move, don't really matter anymore. At that point, the speed only really matters, because you're moving any distance that you're really wanting to specify. So anyway, that's all positioning related, and obviously when you've got a model loaded up, your models are always going to have an origin point, and so these are going to be used for, you can use them for rough positioning compared to your material, or you can use them for even fine positioning. You don't even have to use a touch plate if you don't want to. You can just kind of go by eye. I'll quickly show off some other buttons. Obviously, the bits over here. Right now, the bit's over to the left side, and the 0 point in comparison is up and to the right a bit more. And so I can either say, oh no, my bit isn't, I don't want it to be here, I want that to actually be zeroed. So when I zero it, you can see it places it at the 0 of the X, which is along the green line. Or if I say, yeah, that I am at that position in relation to my 0, then I can just decide, hey, I want to go back to where my 0 point is, and I'll hit the go to, and it'll move back to that point. Now, if you want to make sure that you're not colliding with things when you're moving around or using the go-to buttons, there's an option here for a safe height, and that safe height will allow a kind of upwards retraction before it moves, and then a downwards retraction again, that you don't have any collisions with anything. That's still something that we're trying to make sure works across all the new features that we've implemented. And we might perhaps draw upon that specified safe height when the outline is run as well. So let me just catch up on the chat. Yeah, Dallas, the outline button is a new one. It's just come out with 0.6.9. Feel free to give it a try, but as I said, give yourself a lot of extra Z height to play with so that it doesn't actually accidentally run into anything. As you guys know, gSender is still in active beta, and what that means is that we are working as quickly as we can to bring new features and new improvements to the program to you guys. But also in those 2-week development cycles, we're trying to do the best testing we can on our end, but there's still things that fall through the cracks. And so what I would recommend is that you guys yeah, don't worry about it, Steven. It's something that any updates on servicing prior to, oh yeah, I'm pretty sure it was fixed. Yeah, you can now select this and put in values smaller than 1 now. Yeah, that was something that was fixed with 0.6.9. So enjoy. Also, obviously, we fixed that issue where if you entered in custom values, that when you exited and came back to it, they would be gone. Now they remain. So. Okay. Okay, where was my train of thought here? Oh, right. I was talking about gSenders in beta. Okay. The plan with gSender is that we're going to be continuing development of beta for the next likely 2 months. And that should allow us to get to the point where we will have the entirety of the feature set, I guess, sorted out in terms of any bugs or any behavior that is unexpected. And at that point, we will be releasing gSender under version 1.0. As soon as that happens, all of the download links and all of the other documentation and stuff will be surrounding gSender 1.0. At the same time, we will continue doing development on gSender, but separate from the 1.0, where it'll be more of a development branch. And our aim is to make it so that in the settings, you can choose to toggle between getting updates for the development branch or not. And by default, it'll be turned off. And that way, everyone that's using gSender 1.0, everything should work reliably. You can use it for running longer jobs. You can rely upon it to work well for you, basically. And then continuing to work on more features and putting those features out and testing them and stuff like that, those will continue happening in the development branch. So yeah, I've kind of gone over these two sections, the location section and the jog control section. Obviously, you've got the zeroing for the axes independently and the go-to for the axes independently, and then you've got the zeroing for all and the go-to for all. There's also another feature which is still a bit developmental because many people don't have limit switches for their long mill. But you can see there's a toggle here for end stops. Basically, to enable this feature, as of right now, we have it so that you actually have to go in and turn on end stops here in the firmware tool. And so we have to be able to turn on the homing here. And once you do that, it's going to want you to home the machine. But you'll also see that this toggle now becomes available. And once you toggle that on, it's basically going to give you some additional buttons here, including the homing button, which obviously you can send a homing command through the console as well. But also these quick location buttons. And you guys won't have to worry about this, but by default, when you download gSender, the preset is for the long mill 30x30. And it comes with the appropriate width, depth, height of the machine, as well as the width, depth, height of all these other machines that we have gone out and collected ourselves. That took a long time, by the way. That took me like a whole day. Anyway, it uses these values here for these buttons here. So when you go and you home the machine, which I won't because I don't have any limit switches available right now, these buttons will be made available, and they are actually quick movements to the four corners of the machine. And that's just like a bit of an extra perk of having homing switches or end stops on your machine. So I'm going to turn this off though, because I can't actually clear this. Steven, I'd like to have both installed rather than choosing one over the other. Yeah, that's fair. You know, maybe we can have it so that they're both happening independently. I'll definitely try to consider that. Like, I'll definitely consider that in the future. It's something that we haven't actually started working on yet. Being able to choose between the two, and so if we find that not having to choose between the two is actually easier to implement, then perhaps we'll just go down that route instead. So, Stephen, I'll address quickly the workspace that you were talking about. So some of you might not know this, but when you're using the long mill or any CNC machine for that matter, you can set up multiple workspaces, also known as work coordinate systems. And essentially, these different work coordinate systems are different, I guess, basically different 0 points that you've set. So, for instance, you'll notice that right now in gray, these numbers are different than the 0 numbers. And it's because these gray numbers are actually the quote-unquote machine home. Now, if you don't have limit switches set up and you don't have homing, then your machine home will just be whenever you turn your machine on. That'll be considered your machine home. But if you did have limit switches and you homed your machine, then these would be reset to that 0 point. So the machine home is something that's kind of constant and the machine keeps track of it. These zeros, when it's saying right now that I'm at 0, 0, 0, I'm not actually at the machine 0, 0, 0. I'm at the workspace G54 0, 0, 0. Now, some of you might not know this, but like anytime you're using basically any G-code sender, by default, you're working inside the G54 workspace. You're not working within the machine workspace. And so if you want, you can always just switch to another workspace. And you'll see here that in my G55 workspace, because I haven't altered the 0, its 0 point is still at the machine 0 point. Though obviously, if I wanted to, I could say, oh, this is my 0 point here, right? But now that I've moved it and set my 0 point, if I now toggle back to G54, you'll notice that G54, the bit is offset by that movement that I just made. You guys see that? And that's because and if I go to the G56, it'll also be the machine 0 back up here. And so you can see how this would be useful if you're wanting to kind of keep track of multiple zeros at once. If you have, for example, a jig or like some sort of locating mechanism in the back corner of your machine that you use specifically for running a particular job. Or if, for instance, you're trying to batch out a large quantity of products and you need to set zeros in multiple locations on multiple jigs, stuff like that, because you don't want to be kind of like running one job and then jogging over, setting a new 0, running that job, jogging over, setting another 0, running that job. If you're kind of like tiling the same job over and over again, but your G code only has one cut version of it. I know I might not be explaining this super well, but I also am kind of not explaining this super well because this is a bit more of an advanced feature that I wouldn't expect the average person to use. But just know that like this toggle, when you change this, not only is it changing the visualization of the bit and the 0 point of the bit, but also if you were to use the probe when you're in like this workspace, then the probing will apply to that workspace. If it doesn't, then that would be a bug. But the probing should apply to that workspace. And if you're using a macro, then the macro should apply to that workspace. And all the other stuff, like when you toggle this, nothing else in the entire program should change. You should be able to do everything exactly how you'd expect it to, but all revolving around that new 0 point. So yeah, I hope that I've explained that concept appropriately. For the home button, I want to set an offset because I've set area I start from after a home. Will that be able to set? Yeah, I think, Stephen, obviously our focus for gSender right now is to introduce as many of the features as we can to benefit the average user. And so since homing is something that isn't set up right now for the average user, it's something that we haven't as much prioritized, I would say. But you're correct. I think being able to set those quick movement locations would be very helpful. Like that they're customizable. There's always more space in the settings, and so as of right now they're kind of locked in place, but my vision for those 4 buttons was that in the future they definitely would be customizable, so that people can kind of have 4 locations that they can quick travel to. Both versions of software installed on the computer. Yeah. I think that would be perfectly fine to do, David. Can you run 2 long mills at the same time? No, you cannot do that. So, well, to be fair, I don't know if I haven't tried actually. I actually haven't tried this, James. Is opening up 2 versions of gSender at the same time, connecting to different machines and running 2 different jobs. Actually, let me grab a USB cable really quick here. Let's see. I mean, even so, I might not recommend it just because obviously having a constant stream through the USB of your computer to another machine and receiving signals back, it brings up more possible issues of like lag or missing something along the way. So, but I actually have another machine here beside me. Let me see if I can do this or not. Okay. So I've got my two machines plugged in here. This one should still be able to go along now. Okay. Yeah, James, what Steven says, I would confirm that you can use basically a Raspberry Pi, which is like a mini computer, and allow that to be a more reliable source of sending and receiving data from your machine to your computer, where your computer is not actually directly connected to the machine. Your computer is communicating to the Pi, and then the Pi is communicating to the machine. Yeah, and gSender will work on the Raspberry Pi. It doesn't have to work on a normal computer. But I'm just going to try out something here. I'm not able to load two instances of gSender, but I'm going to see if I can run the long mill with gSender while I also run. Let's bring this to a safe location. Clear that. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I am connected to two machines simultaneously right now. But James, I'll be fair. We haven't done a whole bunch of testing on running two machines simultaneously. It's not something that many Lockmill users do. I would actually I know Don on our Facebook group is someone who has run two long mills, for quite a while now. I would be curious actually what his setup is. And perhaps if you want to send a message out to him on the Facebook group and ask him what his setup is, then he can let you know. Anyway, I'll stop this job now. It seems like multi-machine communication is possible, but yeah, as I also said, you're looking at talking back and forth. Like think about when you're communicating with your CNC machine. Think about it in the sense that the machine is quite dumb. It's kind of accepting a communication line through the cable from the other computer. And so the computer like that I'm on right now is having to do that talking live back and forth. It's like a conversation to the machine, right? And so if you're expecting the computer to hold two different conversations at the same time live between two different machines, it brings up the possibility of getting mixed between those conversations. But also, obviously, it requires more processing power on the side of the computer. So I'm not the type of guy who's going to make false claims. So I could just say to you that, oh, since right now I just tested it and it worked, it'll work for you. But I'm not going to say that to you because I'm not going to give you false hope. I'm going to keep you grounded in what I believe and what I've tested. So that's just my take on it as of right now. Jav, every so often when I move the axis, it doesn't move, I have to disconnect and reconnect. Jav, I have to say, I actually think I just recreated that bug myself today. Yeah, as Steven says, USB serial, so there's lots of traffic. Yeah, Jav, sorry that I'm answering your question so late, but I think I actually recreated that bug today. Though I haven't been able to create that bug on my computer at home. And so I'll have to talk to the team about this ASAP because that's a really annoying bug. I don't know why it's happening. Is there any other questions that I missed so far? By the way, Jav, if you have any other questions, feel free. I know you've got a lot of questions you've been asking me in the YouTube comments and stuff. I'm happy to answer anything you got for me. My wife Cricket leaned way too hard. Yeah, if you smashed up your keyboard, that might affect your keyboard controls. That's fair. Okay, I guess I will move on. So I've sort of oh, there was the tool change spot question. Oh right, I totally had missed that. Rick, is there a way to set the tool to set the spot to do a tool change? So right now, the way tool changing is set up, and if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, you go to the settings and you go to this tool change area, and you can basically tell it I either want to ignore tool changes or pause when I see one, or insert code when I see one. And the purpose of inserting the code is to allow you to automatically do stuff on a tool change command so that you can actually process a tool change and then continue going on with your code from there. Now, I'll be frank with you guys. Most of the jobs even that we do here at the office are not very complicated, and I don't normally do tool changes even myself. And so instead of kind of hooking everyone in with this default behavior for tool changing, I've left it open for you guys to make it whatever you want to make it. Oh, look at that. Look at that bug. That's fun. So in any case, so these are blank, and you can enter in whatever you want to enter in. If you don't have homing set up, it's going to be very difficult for you to be able to specify a tool change location. you will need to have homing set up to do that. If I'm honest, tool changing in general, doing it automatically via this tool change section will most likely require homing to be set up. And the reason being is that you can imagine there would be a little bit more difficulty. First of all, because you have to specify a tool change location, which, since you don't have homing set up, all of your movement is happening relative to your job, which makes it much more difficult. But also, there's kind of the element of managing the resetting of the zero axis or of the Z axis when you change the tool over. When you have a new bit inside the call it. And so that's something you have to watch out for as well. Right, so there's kind of two aspects to it. There's obviously there's the aspect of like when you begin the tool change, you can move your bit up and out of the way of the job area, and then stop and allow for time to perform the tool change. But then after you've performed the tool change, you now need to reset your 0 point. And that can only be done via a probe. And so you'd have to program in a probing to happen in the post hook. But if you don't have like a set point for initiating the probe via having limit switches, then it will have to be in relation to your job, which is okay. If you're kind of set up for that beforehand, then that's okay. But it'll just require a little bit more thought on your end. Does that make sense, you guys? I can clarify on that if you'd like me to. Zachary Schnell, any idea on a homing sequence? Yeah, you can already do homing sequence if you have limit switches. I went over this a bit earlier. You basically go into the firmware, you go down into homing cycle enable, you turn that on, you go into the settings, you turn on end stops, and now you can either run the homing sequence here or here. But you need limit switches on your machine before you can do that. If I click this, it's just going to time out because there's no limit switches on my machine. Also, if you're wanting to make sure that you're homing in the right direction, you want to go to these three here. So if you notice that your X is moving in the wrong direction, you toggle this or the Y or the Z. This is also where you can turn on soft limits or hard limits. Soft limits is basically going to use your maximum travel numbers and make sure that from the homing point, it won't move more than 812, 812, and 105. Otherwise, it'll give you an alarm. And hard limits requires actually limit switches on both ends of your axis. So one at the minimum point and one at the maximum point. And it'll look for a triggering of the maximum limit switch and give you a warning when that happens. You'd be able to turn off my end stops here. I'm getting some bug going on here. Hmm. Makes sense to me, but I'm using it. Yeah, so anyone who's used to using like a more like pre-built machine will kind of find the idea of optional limit switches confusing. The fact of the matter is that obviously here at CNC Labs, like we make a push to make the machines as accessible as possible, and one aspect of that is price, right? And so in addition to that, like me and Andy have been running our machine. We any things that are available to you are available to us. Like it's not like we're not selling you limit switches, but then we're using limit switches here in the office when we make stuff or we make projects or whatever. Andy and I literally haven't used limit switches on our machine to this date, and the company has existed for like 5 years, and that's how long we've been using machines for. And so when I tell you limit switches are optional, they really are optional. The um, the real benefit of limit switches come from if you have a job that quits on you unexpectedly, or if you are trying to run a job like I don't know, a 20-hour job and you want to run 10 hours one day and 10 hours the next day and you don't want to lose your spot. Um, or stuff like that. Um, yeah, as David mentioned, there is a write-up on limit switches. We're going to be actually adding a bit more documentation to that, I think about a week from now. And to answer your question, Stephen, we've actually been working on a limit switch solution to offer for the long mill. I started working on it, I have to say, definitely at least like 10 months ago, and if not longer. And the fact of the matter is that we just try to make sure that we're kind of prioritizing our time in the right places because our team is still quite small, and Andy and I are still the main developers. Um, and we had a hiccup with the limit switches where manufacturers were not reliably giving us sensors with the right voltage levels, and because of that hiccup, the release was delayed. And but we're now working back on it again, and the plan is basically on the next version of the long mill, there will be um, limit switch attachment points built onto it. And for all previous versions of the long mill, we're working on making a solution that's fully backwards compatible all the way back to the very first long mill that was ever released. And so anyone will be able to buy them and equip them onto their machine if you so choose. And obviously, that's something that we wanted to come out as soon as possible. I think we're still testing out the samples and pulling out some of our older machines to make sure it all works as we expect it to. And so, but that's something that we're pushing a lot more now, especially since some more people are using the long mill for more advanced uses. And also, yeah, it's a nice to have, as you guys are mentioning. So yeah, so we'll continue on making good documentation on it, so that by the time we do release the limit switches, the documentation will already be there essentially. We'll continue working on support in gSender for limit switches, so that when we release it, there should be no bugs there as well. Um, and I guess that addresses everything. Okay, so Zachary, you mentioned how the toolpath screen went blank. Um, Yeah, Steven, yeah, you do have a write-up posted. Yeah, Steven's write-up is good as well. Yeah. Actually, now that I think about it, I should probably link to Steven, your write-up in our documentation so that people can have an alternate source to check out as well. Yeah, and David as well. Yeah. So Zachary, you're saying that your toolpath screen went blank. Um, I don't know if I can address right now if that's a you problem or an us problem. Um, if you mean that like everything looked normal except for this one boxed area here was completely black, um, that isn't an issue that I've seen before. What I might recommend to you is if it's possible, you're having the same problem as Zach. Okay. This is the first time I'm hearing about it, guys. I have seen instances of the entire program freezing on people, but I've never seen just the visualization area go black. So I would actually really appreciate it if you guys could follow up by submitting via, I'll go back over to the browser here. If you guys could, yeah, so if you guys could go to the gSender page and click the feedback, or if you have gSender open itself, you can click the question mark help button, and that will also take you to the installation or the resources area, and go to this problem/bugs tab to submit feedback. Please submit the feedback to us either like ideally through this. You can also go through the forum as well if you'd like to go through the forum. Because if you are on the forum, there's a section dedicated to gSender down here, so you can always make a new submission here. But please, if you can do that, and you can include the file that caused the issue and also a screenshot or a picture of your screen, what it looks like, I would really appreciate it. Oh, since the update, it hasn't happened. Okay, well that's good because we did change some stuff with the update that was supposed to address that. Zachary, perhaps you should try updating to the newest version and see if that happens again for you, and let us know if it does. Good to have you, James. Yeah, I know we're kind of getting a little bit late at the night right now. I wanted to make sure I started late because that's when everyone wanted me to start. And David, nice to have you as well. Yeah, I might opt to do a monthly live stream because I think it's good to see what you guys' feedback are and the questions you want to have answered. I will now go on to the only unanswered thing now is Steven wanted me to address the macros, so I should probably do that now. And there's still other stuff that I haven't addressed actually, so I'm just gonna keep going. Let's see if maybe we can hit 10 p.m. here. Oh, okay. There's some other questions. Is there a way to see or send logs? There is, but I think we need to document it better. Because as of right now, it's not easy to get to. Obviously, you can go to the console and like select your code and send that to us, but that doesn't do us a whole lot of good. But that's a really good question, Nicholas, and so that perhaps we want to look more into that in the future. Jav, are you ever thinking of setting up a controller so you connect the router to it somehow? So when the gSender job is done, it shuts down to the router and shuts it down. So Jav, you can already do this actually. It's not through a product that we sell, but it's through a product that is readily available. Let me quickly show you what I mean. So if you come over here to and look up IoT Relay, this product here, and you can see it's sold in a couple different places. But this product here, you can see through these two pins, it accepts basically like an on-off signal, and it turns the plugs on and off. And we actually have documentation. If you go, this would be inside the Longmill Advanced. There's a page here for IoT Relay Control, and I'll link it to you guys here. And we have a full guide here on how to wire this up, as well as how to actually insert the code. And basically what you do is in gSender, you go into the program events, and this is basically code that it injects at the start and stop of every time you send a job. And all you need to do is put an M8 here and an M9 here and update these. And now every single time you run a program, it'll send the M8 at the start and the M9 at the end. And you can see that that's all that you need to do. And once you've got those M8 and M9 commands turned on, you can now use this IoT relay through the pins shown there to turn on and off your router, a vacuum, anything like that. Yeah, Steven, you're correct. It doesn't work for 220 volts. So that would be a caveat there. It could be possible that there's another product out there that I don't know of right now that does a 220 volt control. I mean, an IoT relay is just a regular relay, but with the plugs built in and some additional circuitry. So, okay, I think I've addressed that question pretty well. I have a small issue with the new home-built machine. Perhaps you have a suggestion. Perhaps you have a suggestion. Response from machine is often O or K only. And I have to hit enter in the console to continue. That's interesting, Jeff. It's been a while since I've troubleshooted Gerbil devices, if I'm honest with you. Obviously in gSender, that isn't happening. You can see if I do my movements, I'm getting okay there. But it could be possible that your baud rate is incorrect. I can't change the baud rate right now. Let me disconnect to so I can show you. Normally there's like different selectable baud rates here. And you need to make sure when you're communicating with your machine that the baud rate is set correctly, so that you're getting proper streaming of the information. Obviously for the long mill, it's set up by default, so nobody has to worry about it. Oh, it still says that I've got, hold on, let me turn this off. Okay. Switch mode for channel back to. Okay. What voltage is the M8 and M9 switching? The voltage that it's switching is, let me switch back here, is, you can see the close-up here. It's on this coolant pin, the coolant ground combination. It's sending out 5 volts to the IoT relay here and causing it to switch on and off. So the nice thing is that that's controlled with the M8 or the M9. And additionally, you can do it manually. It's if you don't want to do it fully automatically, you can do it manually as well through this coolant tab here. Hold on, I need to sort out why this is doing this right now. $1.22. Interesting. I like that while I'm doing this stuff, I'm also finding bugs alongside you guys. This is pretty fun. Okay, let's sort it out. Yeah, maybe because I have 2 devices. I'm not sure. Digital, aka David. Yes, I talked about outline earlier on, so you should be able to go back earlier and find the answer to your questions. I actually talked quite a bit about it, and also some things you want to watch out for since it's only been just recently released. Okay, so I've been waiting too long. I have to get back to talking about macros for Steven's sake. Um, don't look too much into these macros that I have here at all. All you need to know about macros is, and by the way, we're working on some other features for them, like being able to rearrange them and giving them descriptions. But basically, you have the ability to import and export macros, so that you can send them between people, or you can save them. If you accidentally delete one, you can reload it or what have you. But let's say you don't have any macros, you can click the plus here. You can give it a name, and your name could be whatever. And we're going to be introducing a description as well, so that if you come back, you'll remember what this macro is supposed to do. But then you can fill out macro commands, and the commands are basically, it's a combination of G-code commands as well as variables. These variables can be useful. For instance, if I'm trying to make like a probing command, if I click the dots here, I can edit it and delete it. So if I edit it, you can see here that I've got a variable in here. And what this variable is allowing me to do is to basically grab the current X position, divide it by 2, and add a certain amount to it, and set that as my new X position. And that's something that you can't do easily with pure G code, and you can do much more easily with using the macro variables. So yeah, you can make those changes and save them, do whatever. If you click this button here, it'll run it. I don't want to run any of these. I'll just run, let's say I make a macro command that moves to the left. I don't know, 10 millimeters max. Moves to the right. Oh, right. I forgot to define a feed rate. I should probably tell it how fast it needs to move. In case you're wondering, I just went over to the console here, which gives you kind of the raw output. And it told me, hey, you haven't told me the feed rate. There we go. Now moved. I need to, let me do this in G91. Now, anytime you click this, it'll move then to the right. And you can make this amazing wall of text here. And you can cancel it if you if you realize you want to abort, like what Steven brought up earlier. And the last thing about macros is that we've made it so that you can assign shortcuts to it. So if you scroll all the way to the bottom of the keyboard shortcuts, you can see I can create a shortcut for the macros in the macro section. You need to make sure you turn it on, and you can assign a short key to it. So let's say I had Control 5. Actually, I just want to, let's run the hello one, Control 5. And then I leave that. Now if I press Control 5, the macro seems to run for longer than the macro did. Yeah, it's just because I clicked it over and over and over again. So it's actually just running the macro over and over and over again in quick succession. Let me choose another macro shortcut here. Maybe like Shift D, or yeah, Control D. Control D. Oh, I think I found another bug, guys. Okay, well, that's interesting. It might just be the specific key combination that I'm using. This has been a very productive session. Let's try Shift G. Try that. All right. I suppose something went wrong on the newest update. So I'll have to take a look back at that. Oh, wait, did I turn it on? Hold on. I did turn it. Oh, it's not even turned on. Hold on. Oh, there we go. I didn't turn the macro on. I think the bug that I was encountering was that bug, Steven, that you mentioned before, where when you run the macro and it's in focus, then pressing any key will cause it to run again. That I suppose we haven't addressed yet. But the actual issue is that I didn't turn the macro on, which just goes to show that even the guy that has basically run the entire gSender project can still forget these things. So don't feel bad if you forget these things as well. That's the real takeaway. By the way, all of the menus that get popped up, you don't necessarily have to click X to leave it. You can also just click outside of it. For all of you super users out there, that might make things run a bit faster for you. Just a heads up. Steven, you have to let me know if I answered all of your questions regarding macro stuff, or if you feel like there's more that I missed. Wow, thank you, Richard. I really appreciate that. I hope you're able to use it for all of your CNCing needs. Okay, well, while I'm waiting for Steven to get back to me here, I'm going to try to see if there's anything else. I haven't done probing yet, so perhaps I can do that for you guys now. Oh yeah, there's that bug again, Jav. Wild. All right, I'm gonna switch my view here so you guys can see the camera over by the machine. Oh, hold on. Is the web camera still working here? I might have unplugged it accidentally. Oh no. Oh, you're all good, Steven. Glad to hear. I think I accidentally ruined ruined the webcam. Oh, never mind. We got it back. Oh, okay, we got it back. Okay, this is good. All right, guys, you've been asking to see probing, so you're not going to be able to hear me very much. I'm just going to go over there quickly and set it up, and then I'll come back and explain what I'm going to do. Sound good? So you'll be quiet for a bit. Just, talk amongst yourselves. Hello? Okay. Yeah, how about them habs? Am I right? So, here we are. We've got our touch plate and our magnet here. Actually, I just realized I don't have really a bit in there. But while I prepare, you're looking down at the bottom corner here. I'll start with this Impulse Z Touch. And when I go to hit probe, we're going to get this window here. And basically, it's kind of like a check before you actually run the probe that first of all, your probe looks like it's in this position as pictured, which is the bit is above the circle. Obviously mine isn't right now. But the other one is the connectivity, which is I should be able to touch these two together and you can see it turns green. So that's really important that there's like a solid connection there so I don't lose any bits. Let me back out of here so that I can finish setting this up properly. Just putting in the bigger column adapter. Now, feel free to use the red button on the Makita for general locating. I don't know if you'll be able to use it. Yeah, so guys, I was just saying, in case you couldn't hear me, feel free to use the red button on the Makita to do very hand tightening and hand loosening of the collet knot. But if you're ever doing any substantial tightening, remember to use your wrenches. This red nut spot isn't meant for full tightening. I know some past videos we might have shown this before, but don't do that. It's just a bad idea. So I'm just gonna jog the machine over here. Also, when you're doing this, be mindful of the cable here. You don't want to run over it, guys. You know, we are trying to make things easier for you to do, so that you don't have to think about as many things. But I can't stop you from placing this wire right under your V wheel and squishing it. That's like you're asking too much of me at that point. I need you guys to be able to complete a reasonable amount of independent thinking. No, like I'm not calling anyone out or anything, you know. Everyone makes mistakes. If you do run it over, then post a picture. I'd love to see it. So you can see now I've gotten. Let me bring the light over here a little bit better. So you can see now I've gotten the bit close-ish, but it's still not above the circle like it should be. This material's kind of warped. Kind of annoying. It's not right above the circle. So normally I like moving around in normal mode, but I'm going to switch over to precise. And this will allow me to get a little bit closer, have a bit more of a granular control to get over top of the bit here. And to me, that now looks like it's about above. So I'm going to reopen the probe menu here. I'm going to do the touch. And oh, look, Mr. Chris forgot to attach Mr. Magnet onto Mr. Nut. Okay, let's try again. Touch it up. Okay, look, we're getting connection here. So this is important because if you don't check this first, you're gonna go and just collide, and you could break a bit. Now, bear in mind, I'm not forcing you into my ecosystem or anything like that. You can go to the settings, go to probe, and there's a little toggle here called probe connectivity test. You can disable this, and that would allow you to not have to touch the probe to the bit every time. It would just allow you to go straight through if you would like to. But by default, it's turned on because we want you guys to not have those issues. Even myself, you know, everyone makes mistakes. I suppose I haven't opened up this probe settings yet still, but you can do some other adjustment of the size of your touch plate, the settings of how the probing happens. You can put in your different tools here if you'd like. The tools aren't necessary because, well, if I do another type of touching, you can see there's the tool selection here. You don't have to make a new tool if you don't want to. You can also type one in if you'd like to, and it'll use that as well. So up to you, really. Zachary, who decided to put the settings on the touch plate, and are they different? I won't answer that question. Well, who decided to put them on the touch plate? Andy did. And are they different? I suppose that's something you'll have to find out for yourself. But this one says, you got the moves, but have you got... In any case, so let's do a quick Z touch here. Let me show you first a Z touch that'll fail. And I'll tell you why it's going to fail. The reason why is because I'm going to start too high up. I'm going to start the probe. And look at that, I've got an alarm here. And the reason why is because we don't want it to look for too long. If it looks for too long and something's messing up, then maybe it's breaking your bit, maybe it's plunging into material that you don't want it to plunge into. Who knows what's going on? So it's a safety thing. So you do need to make sure that you're bringing the bit reasonably close to the plate before starting a touch in all three directions, which is why we've also got the circle that you have to start at. Otherwise, you will have an error out that happens. So if you get the error, you can always click here on the question mark and it'll tell you why you got the error. And you can always click here to unlock it. Is there an inches mode? Yeah, of course there's an inches mode. You go to the settings here and you switch it to inches. And now everything is in inches, except for this is still in millimeters. That's supposed to have been changed. But even over here, this is in inches per minute. Inches, inches, inches. Even all the file setting, like details, are in inches. So I don't have the file loaded right now. There we go. But you guys know, I like using millimeters personally. I mean, I'm Canadian, so we're kind of allowed to use inches or millimeters. It's up to us. You know, when you're born, you're handed two different index cards, and you have to choose which one you like the most. And I happen to choose millimeters, which is kind of handy because a lot of engineering conversion stuff, the metric system is a bit simpler on the no conversions necessary, you know. So yeah, so now I'm going to run a Z touch, and this time it will work because I've got the bit close enough. Now it's just going to touch off the surface once, back off, touch off the surface again, and now we're good to go. And you can see now it set my Z0 to 19. The reason it's set to 19 is because the plate is 15 millimeters tall, and the touch-off distance is 4 millimeters. So 19 is where it should be at. And now if I click go to 0, you guys won't be able to see, but it is at the 0 point, like it is at the surface of the material. So now let's do a 3-point probe. I'm still at that circle point, so I'm well located to let's do an XYZ touch. And I've got a 1/4 inch bit here, so I'm going to select a 1/4 inch bit, hit probe, touch it to confirm, and this time I'm going to hold it from the back corner here, and let's start the probe. So we're going to hit it from the top first, and confirm, and then hit it from the left side, and confirm, and hit it from the front side, and confirm. And we're going to return back where we started. And now if I hit go to 0, oh, you know what happened there, guys? That was my safe height. My safe height's really large. That should only be like 5 millimeters. Okay, you saw me make a mistake here. So that's good, because now we can learn together. What happened there, guys? I'll just explain. The reason why that failed and it plunged actually into the material there is because after it finished probing, and I said return to 0, when you or the go to XYZ 0, when you click that, or any of these go-tos, it's going to move to the safe height first before it makes a movement, and then come back down. And what happened is right now, I'm right near the limit of my Z travel, and my safe height was quite a bit. And so what happened is when it moved to that safe height, it actually collided with the top of the Z axis. Thought it moved even further, and then when it came back down, since it thought it moved further up, it ended up moving further down instead. Okay. My bad. Let's do this again. It's good for you to see even myself making mistakes, right? Can be flipped to the Z. Yeah, sure. I'll show Jeff. I'll show you how to do the flip. Default diameter 0. I suppose that's something I hadn't thought about before. Oh, I actually know. Oh, interesting. Well, this is a bug here. The Z0 shouldn't be that high up. Let me move this down a little bit. There we go. Well, you know, that probably answers the question of, I have seen a couple people saying that it plunges into their stock. I'm suspicious now that what's happening is you've got a safe height that's a bit too tall, and it's maxing out the Z. So, then again, your router shouldn't be this deep in the router mount. Usually it should be higher up. But in any case, hey, Jeff, I'll show you how to do the flip Z. Nicholas, why is your default tool diameter 0? Your default should just be whatever you have previously selected. Let me try here. If I disconnect and reconnect. Yeah, it's just what I previously selected. So if you've never selected it before, it'll probably be 0. You know, we could probably make it so that there is a default value if you'd like. Jeff, let me show you how to flip it and touch it off the stock. So, off the spoil board. Well, you can do either. It doesn't matter either way. So if I do a Z touch here, I'll raise it up. I'll just move it diagonally over this way and raise it up a bit more. Make sure you don't have your wire underneath your plate so you get an accurate measurement here. Hit probe. I touch them together. Start the probe. And then I go to, I'm not going to go to my total 0. I'm just going to go to my Z0. There you go. Touching the surface right there. Barely not touching the surface. And if I want to do it on the baseline board, let's see if I can reach over there. Oh, I'm right at the limit of travel here, but it looks like I might be able to get away with it. Yeah. Let's go again. This is for you, Jeff. And I'll go back to my Z0 here. There we go. Right above the spoil board now. You can do it wherever you'd like to. Just flip over the plate. I know the way that the graphic looks. It makes it look like you can only do it the one way. Maybe we can squeeze both graphics in there, that you can recognize that you can do it both ways. But yeah, if you think about it in terms of the geometry, this is the 15 millimeter thickness. So it doesn't matter if it's this way or this way. You're going to get the same thickness. So it doesn't matter. Was there anything else I haven't addressed? Mike, it works fine, but I can't take a large file. Yeah, Mike, that's something that we're hoping. I was mentioning earlier on the stream, we usually release a new version of gSender every 2 weeks. The next one isn't going to be out for another 3 to 4 weeks because we're taking a lot of extra time to try to introduce some optimizations so that it runs better on larger files and lower power computers. Oh yeah, Steven, that's another important thing to mention is sometimes people will have things, sometimes people will have the Z-axis moving in ways that they don't expect it to. Guys, you do need to make sure you're occasionally lubricating your linear rails here. If you haven't seen it before, we try to make sure that all the information you need to know about your long mill is in the long mill resources. So remember that you can get to this from the main site. You can go resources, long mill resources, and that'll take you specifically to the long mill resources, but this is the resources site as a whole, which has resources for lots of different things. And you'll want to go to assembly, and then CNC maintenance here. And if you go down here, you'll see one of the maintenance things you must do is to lubricate your linear guides. If you want, you can do it with like a 3-in-1 oil. Or if you don't want dust to be sticking to it, you can use a graphite or something like that. But you want to be doing it fairly occasionally, like 20 to 30 hours obviously is like what we would recommend. And maybe you can get away with more. But you need to make sure that your linear rails are moving reliably, or your Z-axis as a whole is moving reliably, and the linear rails factor into that. Can a video game controller be connected for moving the machine around? That's something that we're working on, Jeff. Right now, you can actually install a third-party app that will turn there's a lot of them out there. I think one of them is called Joy to Key, but there are many that exist out there. And basically, that will turn joystick movements into keyboard presses. And then in gSender, you can go to the settings here and set up your keyboard shortcuts so that the different keyboard presses do different things. So that's kind of like a roundabout way right now of getting your joystick working in gSender. But we are actually working on joystick support directly through gSender, so you don't have to install a third-party app as well. Ty, you're saying after the update you can't run big files anymore? That's interesting. I wouldn't have expected that to happen. If you wouldn't mind elaborating a little bit more on when you're saying you can't run big files, is it freezing? Is it not even loading in the first place? What exactly is the behavior there? Yeah, Steven. Yeah, actually, Steven. I should probably mention Steven actually did make a write-up on setting up the joystick handling. Just go here. Just do a search for joystick. Or maybe was it yeah, this is one way of doing it here that Steven wrote up using the program with the buttons and then loading it up here. I have a huge delay between machine moves and the visualizer. Machine is quicker. How about I show you quickly what my delay is so that you can know how it happens on my end. So if I click up, see that? There is a delay. Like the movement in the visualizer isn't as quick as the machine movements are. And this is actually something that we're hoping to speed up so that that delay is reduced. If your delay is longer than that, let me know, because I would be interested if maybe there's issues happening on other systems. I'm sure if your computer, like the computer that I'm running this live stream on, is okay. It's not high end and it's not low end. So maybe if your computer's low end, the delay might be a little bit longer. But it is something we're working on. Do the V wheels require lubricant? No, they don't. I'll bring you back over to the maintenance page here. So when you're maintaining the machine, this has everything that you need to know. You want to check your anti-backlash nuts that they're tight. You want to check your V wheels that they're tight. And we just actually released a video today on that hopefully makes that process a little bit clearer for you guys. You want to clean your rails. The black stuff that you see on the rails, some people think it's part of the wheel coming off, but it's actually dust that's being compressed onto the aluminum and turning black because it's just being compressed. So you can use just a brush or a plastic scraper. You'll want to check for loose fasteners, and you'll want to lubricate the linear guides. You don't. Some people mention lubricating the lead screws with a dry lubricant. That's something that we've never seen as necessary because the interface is a metal screw on a plastic nut. So lubrication shouldn't be necessary. But in some instances, people report the nuts squealing. If you have the nut squealing and it's annoying you, you can put dry lubricant on it if you would like to, but it's not necessary. The bearings for the V wheels are sealed, and they are lubricated from the factory. So it's not perfectly sealed. It's just a metal shielding. But for the lifespan of the bearings, the wheels should wear out before the bearings should wear out. I've had that delay issue when running UDS at a fast feed rate. Yeah, it's not just gSender when you're doing movements and visualization in general, I don't know if you guys know this, but when it comes to G-code senders, the visualizer is heads above everything else as being the most process intensive part. And so if there's anywhere that it's going to cause a delay, it's going to be from the visualizer. And just updating information to and from the program takes a while. But we want to make sure that we keep working on making it as responsive and easy to use as possible. So guys, we just passed 10 o'clock. Been streaming about 2 hours. Can you guys put up if you have any other questions you feel like you would like me to address? There's some other features that I haven't maybe fully covered, like for example, the visualizer options, or there's the about page if you haven't seen. You can see my name's here, which is pretty cool. There's also, I could talk more about the firmware tool if you want me. We've got this new calibration tool, which allows you to square your machine, tune your motor movements, and the surfacing tool also exists here, as well as obviously it exists within the surfacing tool independently. The reason why is in the future, we're going to make the two surfacing tools act separately. This one is going to be surfacing specifically for your machine waste board, whereas this one is going to be surfacing for any given stock size. So that's if you're like essentially using your CNC machine as a glorified planer, but just like on larger stock. So obviously, if you had a planer that was 30 inches wide, that'd be pretty expensive. But right now they do the exact same thing. And obviously the height map isn't implemented yet. Have the visualizers view follow the bit. That's an interesting thing to recommend. Most of the time people are more interested in having a picture, like an overall picture of the job and seeing the bit follow the job as it goes through. Not usually following the bit as it goes through. But that's an interesting recommendation, Keith. You can zoom in and watch the path. Yeah, so right now, obviously, let me take the magnet off the touch plate here. Just gonna 0 here. Oh, I had that bug again. And I'm gonna make sure we get this bug fixed, because if it's annoying me, I can tell it would definitely be annoying you guys. Load this up. So if I start running this, obviously, if I right click to pan, like I'm right click and holding, and then scrolling to zoom in, you can see the bit kind of like follow the path here. So it's not exactly what your recommendation is, but it is possible to kind of like, get a really nice close up here as the cutting goes through. Oh, you use that? Oh, for simulating paths in Fusion. It is something that we are interested in implementing into gSender in the future, is actually doing a full 3D visualizer. But as of right now, it's on the back burner for some other things that we've prioritized. Thanks, Ty. I appreciate. Yeah, I'm. It's a bit late, but I'm happy to show you guys around, and answer your questions. Rick as well. I appreciate the kind words. Like, I'm streaming a static image. Am I? Oh, oh, thanks for telling me. My bad. Okay, here I am in gSender, the stuff that you weren't seeing before. What I was doing is I was scrolling in and right-clicking to pan, um, and you can just watch the bit go through and cut here. Thanks for letting me know, Jeff. I think I've done pretty well for running my first live stream, but it's hard to sometimes remember that you guys aren't seeing what I'm seeing. Yeah, as I was saying, Andy and I started CNC Labs because we're really passionate about it, and we're really passionate about making it accessible to everyone else, right? So, and that happens not just through the design of the machine, but also through offering good resources and support. And also, I like teaching people too, so I'm happy to be here with you guys, able to kind of show you around. When the laser bin will be ready, will be such a video that explains moving from CNC to laser for newbies? I think there definitely should be. As far as I'm concerned, that is what we have planned. Because we want to make sure that we're not just releasing a product and then giving you guys, or just leaving you guys to figure it out on your own. We want to make sure that you guys know how to make laser projects and make pictures online and convert them and put the laser on your machine and control it and all of that stuff. And I can tell you right now that we're already implementing a lot of features into gSender so that when the laser beam is released, it'll be fully supported by gSender as well. So. The program paused due to M0 command is stuck. Yeah. So basically, there's a couple programs that do this. I'll start at the beginning again. You'll see when I start the job, it has the M0 at the start. This is something that me and the development team have kind of gotten back and forth on. This file was made in Carbide Create, and I don't know why they put M0 commands at the start. I think it's for their own machines and for their own ecosystem. But like, we can't make gSender ignore M0 commands, because an M0 command in G-code language is literally pause the program. That's what the command means, is pause the program. And so the problem arises is like, we have to ask ourselves, are we going to make gSender ignore commands that is telling the machine to stop? Because there are a lot of valid circumstances that would make it so that you would want to pause the program, right? So are we going to ignore that, right? And the answer that we've come to for the time being is no, we're not going to ignore that, because it's a pause command. You have to pause. And so the way that we're handling that now is you get this little notification that says, hey, your program's paused because there's an M0 command. Perhaps we can add a little quip on the end there to say, click resume job if you'd like to keep going, because that's what you have to do. You have to click resume job, and now the program starts from the beginning. And by the way, you can get rid of this at any point. You can click the X here, and it'll go away. So, and the reason why we have it staying there permanently is because if it pops up only temporarily and then goes away, then you'll come to back to your machine and be like, why is my machine sitting there not doing anything? Is it okay? Stop, but the banner stays and the button on the logo does not work. You have to use the... Oh. So Nicholas, there's actually a bug right now when you click stop on the longboard versus stop in the user interface. And I know what that bug is, and that's something that we are going to try to fix in the near future. But for the time being, if you were to start it and then you stop it, yeah, this does still stay there. You'll have to exit it out manually. It's not something that'll go away automatically. Can't it go away when you hit continue? Maybe we could make it do that. I suppose that might be possible. I'll talk to the guys about that. We'll see if that's something that's difficult to implement or straightforward. But that's a fair point. We could try making it go away. Should hitting the emergency stop also send the M0 command? Is that possible? Not on the current version of the emergency stop button. And the reason why, Keith, is because the emergency stop button is not a digital button as well. It's purely a power button. Like when you have a power tool or a woodworking tool in your shop and you've got an emergency stop button on it, that emergency stop button is quite literally cutting the power to the rest of the electronics of the machine. And it's basically like a glorified on-off switch. That's exactly how it works on the longboard as well. It's a glorified on-off switch. Because there's no additional signal alongside the emergency stop that's also telling the board that you've hit the emergency stop, that's like not power related, it's like a signal to the board. That doesn't exist with the current iteration of the emergency stop. There is no way of actually detecting if you've just turned your board off or you've lost power or whatever. That's just something that isn't set up right now on the longboard. It's something that I was thinking about the other day, actually, and I think it would be cool to implement in the future. That the longboard is able to detect when it loses power and basically pause the G-code being sent. And even potentially like remember the line that it stopped at type of thing. We are working on the feature where you can resume cutting from the line that you stopped at. We are working on trying to implement logic for that right now. But that's a work in progress. But that's kind of my my rambling thoughts on what you've mentioned here. Because I do know what you're talking about. And I was thinking about it the other day. But it's not something that exists in its current form or would be easy to implement in its current form. Is there anything else you guys are wondering about before I sign off here? We're kind of getting near the end of the live stream. I think I should probably pack up by 10:30. Yeah, Steven, you're correct. This is why we're working on that feature on the start from line, in case you have to use the e-stop or you have to or you lose power or whatever. Okay, yeah, it seems like if I've answered your question, then I appreciate you guys coming alongside with me. I hope you've learned something. If you only got into the stream partway through, I would encourage you to watch it back later. I'm pretty sure I really hope I've set up the live stream so that it saves it after the fact as a viewable video. Otherwise, I'd be a bit upset about it. But yeah, if you've tuned in only part of the way through, I would encourage you to check up on it later on when you have the time. And then you can make sure you can get all the information that I've covered here. And if you're someone who is listening to this live stream and you missed it live and you're listening to it pre-recorded, however long afterwards, and there were questions that were missed, feel free. You can always reach out to me via, you can make a post in the Facebook group or the forum, or the next time I have one of these live streams, make sure to tune in so I can answer your question for you and show you how to do stuff in gSender or on the machine in general. Jeff, we got a shipments of some other parts that had been hung up, so it's very possible actually that there's a stack of machines that are ready to go at the door tomorrow. So maybe one of those is yours. Our packing team is kind of just sitting around. They're like, they've pre-packed so many parts that we did have in stock. We've got, I don't know, probably 300 or 400 XZ, pre-assembled XZ gantries just chilling on a shelf. I'm actually worried that the shelf's gonna break. I don't think it's ever been loaded up that much. But yeah, there's some other parts that it's not like they were supposed to arrive now, but have been delayed a week or something. Like, they were supposed to arrive weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks ago. And there's just been so many delays for who knows why. We literally couldn't have ordered them any sooner. I think as soon as the previous batch of parts showed up, we ordered the next batch, and that was months and months ago. So yeah, who knows? We might have to just continue to overestimate how much things are getting delayed nowadays, because we'd already estimated they would get delayed by a month, I think, and they've still been delayed by more than that. It's kind of wild. Yeah. Thanks for joining us, Lawrence, as well. Zachary, Keith, Rick, Jeff, and the other Jeff G and Jeff B. Thank you guys all for joining up. Hope you learned some good stuff. And yeah, Jeff B, Mr. Baker, I hope you get an email sometime soon that your machine is shipped. I think there was someone else that had sent in a special request that I sign their machine. I'll see if I can get a signature on that. I don't want to make it a thing or anything, because I'm not in the office all the time still. I'm still occasionally working from home to make sure that people are comfortable, But in any case, okay. Oh, that was you, Jeff. Oh my goodness, you're funny, man. Yeah, that. I don't know if I'm gonna sign your machine directly. I might sign your welcome letter. You better not forge my signature on other important documents. This is maybe this is a one-time thing, and you'll have a unique. You're crazy, man. That's funny. Yeah, just I guess if you have an idea on where I should sign it, let me know. But anyway, we've reached 10:30, so I think I should now sign off and bid all of you adieu. Have a good night. It's probably late for some of you. It's getting pretty late for me. And yeah, happy cutting out there, guys. I hope gSender is working out for you, and you're enjoying your long mills as well. All right.